there's a little part of me that hopes nobody watches this video. And there's a little part of me that isn't totally sure I'm going to post it. So if you're watching, that means I'm braver than I think I am. And it probably means that there's a part of me that realizes life is short. And if one person sees this video who might not have heard about this transformational perspective, who might not experience healing in any other way, then it's 100% worth it. So I recently listened to an Andrew Huberman podcast, and I will link to this podcast episode below about a thing called Pennebaker Writing. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it's a really interesting and unique form of journaling where you journal about a traumatic incident from the past. I have had lots of traumatic incidences in the past. I had a pretty rough childhood. I've had so many traumatic incidences in the past that I have done what's called dissociated from a lot of them, which means I kind of just peace outed and said, I'm not going to be here, even though I was there. I like went somewhere else in my mind. And that's a really common thing for people to do in trauma. So I wasn't totally sure I could remember a traumatic incident enough to do this writing assignment, but here's how it goes. So you find a traumatic incident from the past that is impacting your life today, and you give yourself 15 to 30 minutes of uninterrupted time, and you just journal for 15 to 30 minutes, reminding yourself you're in this safe place. You're at the age you are now. You're okay now, but you're writing about that incident. And you can write with a pen or you can type it out. The studies show that it works the same either way. And there are tons of studies about how effective this is. And you want to really let yourself feel the emotion of the event, which I have found that we create as we narrate. So as you are writing about the event, you're actually bringing it to life inside of you, and you're going to start feeling those emotions. And that's actually good. So you want to write about those emotions and maybe even talk about, what those emotions remind you of now in this stage of your life. But just write for 15 to 30 minutes. And then you want to do this writing assignment every day for 4 days in a row. Alternatively, you can do it every week, one time per week for 4 weeks in a row. I've been doing the 4 days in a row, and I just finished day 3 today. And I had such a beautiful aha moment today that I thought, I have to tell other people about this. Like, what if someone else can get the same beautiful aha moment? If you decide to do the writing assignment, you might get a different aha moment, and that's okay. So, what I wrote about was the rubber macaroni incident. And I will explain what that is. It wasn't really so much, I guess it was kind of a traumatic event, but it's an event that I think sparked an overeating habit that I have struggled with. A traumatic incident that I went through in the past little while ago was I had my second brain surgery a little over a year ago. And I had such a hard time recovering from it. I'm still not fully recovered, but I'm almost fully recovered. And it was such a difficult time for me that I ate to cope. And I know better. Like, I'm a person who's actually taught weight loss programs in the past, but I ate to cope and I gained a significant amount of weight. And now I'm looking for ways to just allow myself to permanently let go of that overeating habit. I feel like it's important to say here that I am not a person who believes that you must regress to cause in order to find healing. What that means is you don't have to go back to the event that caused you to be screwed up, which I don't think any of us is screwed up, but perhaps you act like you're screwed up. Perhaps a person acts like they're screwed up. And I don't believe that we have to go back to that initial sensitizing event, to that initial traumatic event in order to get healing. I believe that especially if you have forgotten about that trauma or have blocked it out in some way, the mind does that on purpose. There's a part of you that knows about that trauma, and you can heal that part of you without going back and revisiting that trauma. However, just as an experiment, I decided to go back and write about the macaroni incident that kicked off an overeating habit for me. So when I was about 7 years old, and that's just kind of a guess of how old I was, I rode home from school on the bus. I lived way out in the country, no neighbors around, long dirt road, pretty stinking isolated. I hated school. I didn't really have any friends. I hated the bus ride. It was kind of scary for me. There were mean boys that sat behind me on the bus. And I have had this long, hard day. I get home from school. I walk up the long gravel driveway, get inside. There's nobody home. This is a pretty common occurrence in the 80s, but there was nobody home. And so I just felt so stinking alone. And I look back and I realized I don't think I really felt lonely as much as I felt unloved. I felt unworthy of someone to like be there for me. I felt ungood enough. And a lot of this was kind of reinforced just with the way I was raised. I think my parents did the best they could, but they screwed up a lot, as all parents probably do. And my mom was a bit of a control freak, especially around food. So we weren't really allowed, there were lots of rules around food. So here I am home alone and I'm thinking, I'm hungry. And in hindsight, I don't think I was actually hungry. I think that hunger was revealing it, that sadness or aloneness was revealing itself as hunger. But I thought, I can eat whatever I want. There's nobody here. And so I went and cooked myself the blue box of Kraft mac and cheese. And I made it in the microwave. And microwaves were I had to heat it up for like 5 minutes because back in the day microwaves were much slower than they are now. It seemed like forever to my little girl mind. And I did this weird thing where I liked my mac and cheese to be overheated up, to be like rubbery and dried out and burnt on the ends. I have no idea why. I don't think I would enjoy that now. But I remember heating it up and looking at it and seeing if it looked rubbery and burnt enough. And if it didn't, I put it back in and I heated it up till it was just gross. And I remember sitting there thinking, and on day one when I was journaling, because I was creating as I was narrating, I was remembering things that I hadn't remembered for a very long time. And I remembered thinking, why am I so hungry? So I made the box. I made myself a bowl. I went and sat down and I ate the bowl of mac and cheese and just thought, I'm still hungry. I need more. And I went and filled up another bowl and ate that. And I ate the entire box of mac and cheese. And I just remember thinking, why am I so hungry? So yesterday on day 2, when I did the journaling exercise, I didn't really want to write about it anymore, but I wanted to do this experiment. I wanted to see what would happen. So I went ahead and wrote anyway. And as I was writing, I had this aha moment, and it was really profound to me because I realized that when I was eating this food, I was doing it as a way to kind of dissociate. I was doing it as a way to be paying attention to the rubber mac and cheese instead of the fact that I was so freaking alone. And I realized that was true, but when I wrote on day 2, I realized I felt like my mom didn't really love me because my mom wasn't there when I got home from school, and she never really paid attention to me. My mom always was trying to fix me. Again, no judgment. We all make mistakes as moms, if we are moms. I realized that I felt so alone. I felt so unloved and so unworthy of being loved. And as I was eating, it was almost like I was saying, no one else is paying attention to me, so I'm not going to pay attention to me either. Like I was so uncomfortable being me that I dissociated or disconnected from the idea of being myself. And as I was journaling today for day 3, I did a writing exercise that I've learned about through NLP and hypnosis, and I'm going to share it with you because I didn't really know what else to write about. Like I had written about everything I could think to write about. And I thought, what if I rewrite this event? What if I reimagine it to allow some healing to take place? And this might seem preposterous we can't really rewrite history, but did you know that every single time you have a memory about the past, that you dump the emotion that you're feeling at that time into that memory and you actually change it? Our memories are malleable. They're not pristine. We're not remembering things as they really were. So I know that we're always changing the past anyway. And so I thought, what if I go in and I change the way that event is encoded in my psyche in a way that is empowering and allows me to move forward from a place of beauty? So here's what I wrote in my journal. I'm just going to read you my journal entry. I got home from school and felt so alone. And if I'm being honest, probably unloved too. So I get home from school, I'm completely alone, and let's say an angel comes to visit me and plops itself in my kitchen. But it doesn't look like a woo woo angel with wings. Maybe it looks like Mrs. Lemon. So Mrs. Lemon was my third grade teacher. I actually hadn't even met her yet at this time in my life. She was my teacher, I believe, the following year. And she was one of the only people in my life who has ever really made me feel loved and seen. And I'm going back to reading what I wrote now. So she knocks on my door. And even though she came after that event, I open the door and I know her and I feel safe. And we go on a walk around my property together, like just a slow, easy stroll. And she just bees with me, which I know that's not good grammar, but she's just present with me. And she doesn't say anything in particular, but just being in her presence feels soothing. I feel accepted by her. She's not trying to get me to do anything or be anything different from who I already am. The more time I spend with her, the more okay I feel. And she does this every day, over and over and over. She comes to my house and we just be together. I am present in her presence. I notice the sound of the ground beneath my feet as we walk. I notice the quality of light on different days. I notice a sense of okayness inside. I start to think, what if I am okay? And as that thought grows and grows, I start to be more aware of her. I have a sense of peace underneath that pervades and allows me to be present with Mrs. Lemon. So I'm not super self-conscious anymore. I can be conscious of what's going on around me. I feel safe paying attention to her without having to pay constant attention to running away from myself. I've come home to myself and I feel safe to be myself because she's shown me that it's okay to do that just by being in my presence, not trying to change or fix anything about me, but helping me discover that I am okay right now. Then here's what I wrote. Lori, what if you are okay right now? What if you just are? What if there's not one single solitary thing you need to change about yourself to be okay? What if you're okay just because you exist? So I want to ask you, my friend, what if you're okay right now? Exactly as you are? What if you just are? What if you are exactly okay right freaking now? What if there's not one single solitary thing you need to change about yourself to be okay? What if you are okay just because you exist?